हेलो फ्रेंड्स। जैसा कि मैंने बोला था कि हम वीजी सोम का इंटरव्यू एक्सपीरियंस लेके आएंगे, तो आज मेरे साथ मेरे एक दोस्त है अखिलेश कुमार, जिन्होंने आज ही 6 मार्च को मॉर्निंग सेशन में इंटरव्यू दिया। तो चलिए उनसे जानते हैं कि उनका इंटरव्यू कैसा रहा, क्या क्या क्वेश्चन आए और कैसे उन्होंने उस चीज को टैकल करा है। ओवर टू यू अखिलेश।
हाय हेलो एवरीवन, माय नेम इज़ अखिलेश। मैंने आज ही ऐसे अनुज ने जैसे बताया, मैंने आज ही इंटरव्यू दिया है। सो मैं आपको बताऊंगा मेरा एक्सपीरियंस कैसा रहा। सो आई हैड रिसीव्ड अ मेल अ डे प्रायर टू द
अखिलेश,
फ्यू डेज
सॉरी
प्रायर।
टू
हाँ,
सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट
या
यू, बट क्या तुम ये बताओगे तुम्हारा एकेडमिक बैकग्राउंड से स्टार्ट करना ज्यादा हेल्पफुल रहेगा?
हाँ, ओके ओके, थैंक यू अनुज। हाँ, तो आई हैव completed my computer science engineering, and I'm a 2019 pass out, and I have worked in the computer networking industry as a software engineer for over 2 years.
ओके, कंटिन्यू कंटिन्यू।
Okay, so this is my qualification and work experience. So I had received a mail prior to the interview where they had mentioned that I should log in at 10 a.m., but the interview will start at 10:20. So according to the instructions, I logged in at 10 a.m. But the funny thing that happened was, so I had 20 minutes to kill. So basically, I was just browsing through the newspapers so as to keep myself updated, and maybe I could use a few pointers from the newspapers in the interview. So what happened, as I opened the interview, I was reading it. At 10:06, I started seeing two blocks on the Zoom,
Okay.
on the MS Teams meeting call. And I thought at first that, okay, these are people who first validate my identity. Like they ask for my Aadhaar card and then let me in to see the professors. But no, actually they were the professors. So they already started with the interview at 10:06, which caught me by a surprise a bit. But okay,
So, so you managed at
sorry.
that particular instant,
Yeah,
or you a little bit was in a panic condition.
not panic per se, but yeah, I was a bit taken aback. You're okay, the interview has already started.
Okay, okay,
Basically, the chance that you get before the interview to just calm yourself down. So that I could not get, but that's fine. I think I was okay.
okay.
So they started. They wished me. They asked me how I was doing. So I wished them well, and I asked them again, okay, how are you doing, sir, today, sir? And say that they're good. So they asked me, the first question was, Ki Akhilesh, can you please tell us about your qualifications and your work experience? The same thing that Anuj asked me. So uh, this so I replied the same. I told them about my qualification, and I expanded upon the work that I had done. So I spoke about my projects. I spoke about whatever the projects I had undertaken. Now, based on my this, so this was the answer that they originally asked for. But because, as everyone does, I had prepared to tell me about yourself, and I had some extracurriculars to mention. So I asked them, "Ki, sir, may I please continue with my introduction more?" So they obliged, they accepted my request, and they said, "Okay, please continue." And I went on for another 80 seconds to speak about myself. So
So, what was it?
overall, I spoke.
Yeah, total
Yeah.
duration I was asking about.
Okay, so the total duration was around 2 minutes. So I gave my introduction for around 2 minutes. So I had included everything that I wanted to in that. Uh, Now, the second question, the follow-up question came from my this introduction as well, but it was specifically towards the work experience. They wanted to know more about the projects that I have worked in. For example, I told them that one of my projects involved the working on a virtual router. So they were more interested, okay, what is a virtual router? How is a virtual router developed? What was your role in the work that you were doing? How your work impacted the team? So this is what they were more curious about. Uh, so this discussion about my work experience went on for about 5 minutes. And after that, they asked me a very interesting question where they said, okay, Akhilesh, can you please tell us about your most favorite subject from engineering? So
Okay.
now in engineering, so I had a few subjects that I really liked, but the one that I was most fascinated by was not an engineering subject at all. So I wanted to talk to them about it, but I wasn't sure if I should because it was not a technical subject. So here I asked them upfront. I asked them, sir, is it necessary that the subject needs to be technical? Because my favorite subject is not technical. So on this, they said, okay, what is the favorite subject that you studied about? Like, okay, so I had an elective called ethics and epics, which was very dear to me, and that helped me learn a lot of things. So that is what I mentioned. So they were very intrigued by this.
Yeah, ethics is something that you can't expect of a engineer that to have it as an elective subject. So that was a pretty different from your profile.
Yeah, and even they were surprised, like ethics and epics. Yeah, so ethics and epics. So they asked me what the subject was about, and so I explained to them. And since the conversation had gone in this direction, they picked up on this theme basically for the follow-up questions, the more to come. So
So
uh,
they might be following up in your on your life, how you are applying it or something like that. Must be the follow-up questions. Can you give an insight over it?
yeah, so follow-up questions as in basically so the work experience part was covered by Professor One. I could not see either of their faces. Let me also mention that their cameras were turned off throughout the interview, not just in the beginning. Their cameras were turned throughout the interview. So one professor questioned me about my work experience, and the other professor then took over after I answered the favorite subject topic. Here, the other professor mentioned, okay, the question was, since you talk about ethics and you learned about ethics and you learned about ethics, uh, tell us. So epics, when we speak about, it's generally Mahabharata and Ramayana, the
Yeah.
greatest epics of Indian history. So they said, what were the environmental concerns that they had in that era, which are still prevalent to this day? So that was a bit of a tricky question. I had to think about it. So I asked them for a couple of minutes. They obliged. They were very understanding that way. So I thought about it and I gave an answer. So there were a lot of counter questions to what I had answered. So I guess because in my extracurriculars, in my tell me about myself, the extracurricular part, I had mentioned that I had an interest in debating and I was heavily involved in it. So they use that as well, not directly, but they wanted to see what exactly I can bring to the table if I'm or given a rebuttal, if I made a counter question. So how I face that. So I think that is what they were checking. So um,
So
next, Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
coming to other part, was there any statics or the probability question? Because IIT Kharagpur is known to have some technical and the statistical stuff in their interview programs.
no, for me, I was lucky enough. I was not quizzed about more academics or anything. It was purely about the profile for me. But although, yeah, I have heard that they are very academics based. I was not grilled as much. The next question followed more on the ethical lines again. So they asked me about my opinions about the reservation system in India. They asked me to create an argument for the topic and against the topic. After I created those arguments for them, they then countered me on every argument that I had created for and against. So I think I did a pretty okay job because after that there was no counter questioning after I had explained that and my answer to them.
Okay.
Um,
So was this much only or something more you would like to mention about the interview?
yeah, there was one more question. Yeah. So the one more question that they asked me about what uh, since I spoke about ethics and epics, they said, ki, okay, what are the ethical dangers that a human can foresee about artificial intelligence that can come out of artificial intelligence? So again, there was a bit of a tricky question. I had to think about it more. So in my answer, I spoke about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and how whatever I thought were the ethical concerns that might come out of it. So there were a lot of counter questions on that as well.
Okay, so what was the total duration of the interview?
Total duration of the interview would be around 15 minutes. I would say it was around 15 minutes. It started at 10:06, and I remember walking out of the room to tell my parents about the interview experience as at 10:22, 23. So I guess 15 minutes would be fair. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Akhilesh, for your insights on the interview. Would you like to mention anything for the candidates who will be appearing for the interview, like any idea or any tip that you want to give to the students?
Okay, so one thing that I realized was that from my interview experience, whatever you say, they want to test you on that. So prepare your answers accordingly. So if you say that you are good in this aspect, they will quiz you about that aspect. So they are giving you a chance to show off your strengths. So be as honest as possible in your interview and be as confident as well. So I think that is the best advice I could offer.
Okay. Thank you so much, Akhilesh. Hope you will clear
Thank
the
you, Anuj.
interview and will enter IIT Kharagpur.
I hope that as well. Thank you, Anuj.
Thank you. So guys, this was the interview experience that Akhilesh had. Hope you had some insights over it and you will be learning from it. All the best to all the guys who will be giving their interview in the coming years and the coming session too. Thank you.